afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to OTU Media. I am OTAP. This is the OTAP Show. We have Moto here as ever, working his magic as the man behind the curtain. If you enjoy the material and the information that we bring to you on a daily basis, by all means, we would appreciate your support. Please visit our Patreon page. That's at www.patreon.com/OTU Media. OTU Media is all one word. And check out some of our sponsors as well, such as Now You See It and Now You Don't Hail Repair, WeFixHailFree.com. So what we're going to talk about today, just a couple things, some of the happenings with President Trump and his thoughts on birthright citizenship, the 14th Amendment, and some colleges here in the great state of Oklahoma and their thoughts on Halloween costumes. But getting back to President Trump, targeting birthright citizenship potentially with an executive order. So we're going to roll some footage on this. We have an interview he did on HBO recently, and let's take it away.
On immigration, some legal scholars believe you can get rid of birthright citizenship without changing the Constitution.
With an executive order.
Exactly.
Right.
Have you thought about that?
Yes.
Tell me more.
It was always told to me that you needed a constitutional amendment.
Right.
Guess
14th
what?
Amendment.
You don't.
You don't.
Number one, you don't need that. Number two,
I mean, that's in dispute.
You could definitely
That's very much in dispute.
Well, you can definitely do it with an act of Congress, but now they're saying I can do it just with an executive order. Now, how ridiculous! We're the only country in the world where a person comes in, has a baby, and the baby is essentially a citizen of the United States for 85 years with all of those benefits. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous, and it has to end.
Have you talked about that with council?
Yeah, I have.
So where in the process?
It's in the process. It'll happen. With an executive order. That's what you're talking about, right?
Yeah,
That's
it's
a very
exactly what I'm
interesting
talking about.
I didn't think anybody knew that but me. I thought I was the only one. Jonathan,
I've got a good guess.
I'm impressed.
All right, Moto, how about that footage from the president? What do you think?
Well, I think it's important for the president to be publicly mentioning it to American citizens that he does have the authority to bring us back to the original intended implementation of the 14th Amendment. And certainly, even if he doesn't have the power with his pen and his phone, Congress definitely has the power with the authority granted to them within the framework of our federal government.
So I agree that it's an important issue. If I was in this position, I wouldn't have necessarily mentioned it to these people. I wouldn't let people know what my intentions were. I would just issue the executive order and let the country know, hey, here's how things are from now on. And I think we were talking earlier about how he mentioned that, you know, we as the United States are the only country that does this, but we saw some clarification on that, how there are other countries that do have birthright citizenship, just that we are unique and that we extend that to people that are in the country illegally.
Which was not the intent of the 14th Amendment. If I understand correctly, the 14th Amendment had more to do with black Americans, didn't it?
Well, freed slaves.
Freed slaves, exactly.
Former slaves. After the 13th Amendment ended slavery, the question was, well, what to do with all these people that were formerly slaves? What is their legal status in the country? So that's where the 14th Amendment came from. With, you know, and I'm just going to read, you know, the first section of the 14th Amendment that pertains to citizenship. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. So basically, if they weren't bringing in any new slaves for some time. Therefore, all the people that this applied to were basically, by definition, having been born in the United States. And they were under the jurisdiction of the United States. They were here legally. The laws of the United States applied to them. They were not diplomats or ambassadors or people for whom, you know, they have diplomatic immunity.
Or citizens of other countries already. I think that's also an important clarification with this issue is these people that are coming here are not citizens of nowhere. They belong somewhere else already.
Yes. Well, that is true, but even in other cases, you know, if someone's here on a tourist visa or a student visa and they have children, then the 14th Amendment, as written, applies to them. Whereas, you know, it covers birth tourism. You're familiar with that, right?
Not as familiar as you are. You've looked into it a lot more than I have.
Right.
But I am familiar with Chinese women and Russian women, etc., coming to the United States specifically for the purposes of having children, granting them dual citizenship, so that they can enjoy the. If it's basically like, I remember whenever I got my card for the Cherokee Nation. You know, my mom asked for my birth certificate, and I was perplexed. You know, I wanted to know why. She said she was going to file and get our Indian cards. You know, and I told her, I was like, you know, Mom, when I was young and we played Cowboys and Indians, I was never the Indian, so I don't really feel like I need a card, you know. But she said, do it for your children. They might be more interested in their heritage or the benefits of the tribal nation.
Well, you know, benefits. That's what they'd be interested in, because that's what the card is for. You don't need a card to be interested in heritage.
But we're not going to demonize that over the benefits that you get as an American citizen either, or as a married couple, or etc.
Absolutely. But and it's great that you brought that up. You know, the CDIB cards and Native Americans and the status there, because initially, as implemented when the 14th Amendment was ratified, it did not apply to Native Americans because they were not considered to be under the jurisdiction thereof. They were under the jurisdiction of their tribal governments, of their native nations. And therefore, you know, decades went by before acts of Congress, various organic acts, imposed U.S. citizenship on the various tribal nations, the various native nations, most of which did not want U.S. citizenship. They were upset. They were offended. They were angered that citizenship was forced upon them against their will in many cases. But what we said earlier about the birth tourism, it is a burgeoning industry. There are, you know, travel agencies who specialize in this. They have full packages for, and primarily the big ones are right now Chinese and Russian women. But, you know, as we're moving forward, we're seeing more people from other BRIC countries. So again, you know, we're dealing with countries that have been around a long time and know how to play the long game, and they're willing to use our rules and our system against us in many cases. So
I'm not mad at them.
That's right. It's not a loophole. It's the rules of the game.
Exactly.
And if, you know, how can you fault somebody for playing by the rules? But the point is, the differentiation between birth tourism and what's going on with illegal aliens is, at least with birth tourism, they're in the country legally. They're here. They're supposed to be here. It's you know, there's no I'm not going to say there's no ill intent, but they are absolutely on the side of the law as written. You know, the only aspect of the 14th Amendment that would preclude granting them citizenship is the language where it says, and the state wherein they reside. You know, so basically, if they don't reside in a state, well, then they won't be a citizen of that state, but they could still be a citizen of the United States, you know, however you want to look at that. Again, it all comes down to the and the jurisdiction thereof language, whereas, you know, so-called anchor babies, already not a thing, not legal under the 14th Amendment. People have twisted and perverted the law to cause this to be an issue, and it isn't. So saying that he can take care of this with an executive order or an act of Congress, absolutely. It's just a matter of saying, hey, here's an executive order saying we're just going to go back to implementing this thing as written, as it was implemented for decades after its ratification. What do you think? Good idea? Bad idea?
Well,
are we with the president?
As a Bathhouse Barry, who got down in the back limousine with a man named Larry. I've been hanging out with Tod Tucker.
I can tell. Todd's a great guy.
As Bathhouse Barry says, President Trump has a phone and a pen.
He sure does.
I think he's getting ready to use them.
I would love to see him use these things.
All right, let's go to a break, and we'll be right back with the OTAP Show at OTU Media.
Looks like we are back from another commercial break. Had to pay a few bills there, folks. Looks like we're moving on to talking about the caravan. Oh, Pat Buchanan had some words to say about that. I'm definitely going to get in tune with Pat Buchanan. He has great things to say all the time. He's often a firebrand, if you will. Great pundit. But let's see, populist conservative author and columnist Pat Buchanan says a caravan of at least 7,000 migrants has no international right to come to the United States. Well, absolutely. International right, national right. Actually, international right is irrelevant because we have national sovereignty. We have borders. That's the very essence of Westphalian sovereignty, that we control our borders and the territory within, and no one other than a U.S. citizen has an inherent right to be in the United States. Now, this caravan, if you will, what are my thoughts on it? I'm going to echo the great words of Captain Picard in Star Trek First Contact. The line must be drawn here. This far, no further. They cannot enter. I agree with the president deploying military forces to the border. We should completely militarize the border. In fact, I'm talking moats, minefields. You know, again, I've said this before. I think every member of the Minuteman Project should be given a rifle and be told to do what's right against these criminal trespassers. They have no right to be here. They're conspiring to break our laws and disregard our rule of law on a massive, massive scale. So I'm in favor of whatever means are necessary to halt their advance and keep them from entering our territory. And if they want to face those consequences, that's their decision. It's a decision I wouldn't make.
You know what a globalist is, right?
Again,
you know what a globalist
we don't need these people
a globalist
coming this way. And again,
is a
some
person
people want to make an issue
that wants
of,
the globe to
because
do
of where
well,
they're coming from,
frankly,
Central America,
not
Latin
caring
America,
about our
South
country
America,
so much.
whatever you want to call it.
And you know
When
what?
it
We can't
comes
have that.
To who has the
they
right
have
to
a
be in
word.
the country and our
It
immigration
sort of became
law,
old
none of that
fashioned.
matters. It's
called
irrelevant.
a nationalist.
I like to refer to
and I
the
say,
four
really,
N's.
we're not
It
supposed to
doesn't matter
use
if
that
they're from
word. You know what I am? I'm a
Norway,
nationalist. Okay?
Nicaragua, or Nigeria. They're all the same. They're here illegally. They all need to go. They need to be deported if they're here, and they need to be prevented from crossing our borders if they're not here yet. Okay, did we run was that a Trump video I just saw?
Mm-hmm, and that was him talking about nationalism versus globalism.
Oh,
of course,
I'm
this
a nationalist.
massive caravan of people is a globalist advance on the border. The whole open borders, one world government thing is a big push by George Soros, the Bilderberg Group, the banking complex that's been trying to divest America of its wealth. So we are not fooled by this invasion.
Well, that is what it is. It is an invasion. It is an affront to sovereignty. You know, not to say that we live in a mercantilist, zero-sum game in the world, but there are finite resources. And we can't provide for our own citizens, for our own homeless people, our own homeless veterans. Why should we be expected to provide for people that are not our responsibility in any way, shape, or form? As I'm fond of saying, not a citizen, not our concern.
And I think some of the people that are in the caravan and some of the people that are now emboldened to cross the border we're seeing an increase because the Trump administration ended the family separation policy. So actually, I think we've got a clip of one of the illegal immigrants talking just about that very thing.
Patrol agents tell us they are seeing larger groups cross parts of the border wall here in Arizona. Some of these groups are as large as 300 people. They are coming from El Salvador, Honduras, and Guatemala. But these groups are no longer running from these agents. They're actually seeking them out in some situations, turning themselves in, and then asking for asylum. Now, detention centers here in Arizona are so overwhelmed, the government is now relying on churches to help house migrants. One pastor told us late last week, 800 people were brought to the Tucson area in one day. The ICE field office in Tucson has seen a 51% increase in family apprehensions compared to this time last year. A migrant mother we spoke with says she decided to cross the border with her son after the administration ended the family separation policy. Now, many have been brought to the U.S. by smugglers, and Border Patrol says smugglers are actually taking advantage of the change in policy to prey on these vulnerable people, would-be migrants, and actually coaching them on what to say or what to do to try and gain access here in the U.S.
All right. Awesome footage once again. That really hits the nail on the head on what is motivating some of these people. We're going to shift gears a bit and talk about some of our state level issues, particularly here in Oklahoma, and our gubernatorial race. We've got a three-way race here: Drew Edmondson, Kevin Stitt, and Chris Powell, right?
Yes.
Our libertarian, former service member, Gulf War veteran. Do you know that about Chris Powell?
I did not know that. I didn't know that he was a Gulf War veteran. I do know that he's a police dispatcher. I do know that he's a dispatcher for the police department.
Oh, well, I'm in favor of that as well. It doesn't necessarily mean I think he'll make a great governor, but it makes him a fine American in my book, at least.
No, and we've had him on. We've had Chris in, and Chris is a very nice guy.
He is.
He's very personable, very respectful. But do I think that he's the type of hard-hitting, get-her-done leadership that the state of Oklahoma needs? No, I don't.
I'm going to have to agree with you on that. I think it's great that we're having a representative from a third party, Libertarian Party, represented for the first time, which that's a step in the right direction. But I don't think he's the right guy at the right time.
And all of our viewers know that even Tod Tucker's brand of conservatism is a little wishy-washy for me. So whenever Chris Powell came on, Tod made Chris even look like a moderate or maybe a centrist. Yes. So I, as much as I love the libertarian movement and I love the Libertarian Party, the fact that Chris Powell is the nominee for the Libertarian Party could not say more about the impotent rage that exists in the Libertarian Party. We have so much passion and capability, and then the candidate that we put out for the Libertarian Party is Chris Powell.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's the great thing about, I won't say it's a great thing, but it is the thing about politics in America, and that it's a horse race of sorts and a popularity contest of sorts, and not necessarily a meritocracy. But Kevin Stitt, that guy's been making some headway. I've been to a number of his events lately, and oh my goodness, my notes have gone poof on me. I can't believe this.
Hey,
Technical
there you go.
difficulties.
And we're getting a call from the OTAP.
No.
All right, let's go to break real quick.
All right, we're back. That was a great little break. We had some technical difficulties to attend to. Kevin Stitt, like I said, I've been to a number of events lately, and when I tell him that there's only two issues that I really care about. We've already mentioned one, the issue of illegal immigration, and so I think that we should all ask him that under a Governor Stitt administration, can we expect to see Oklahoma take the lead to become a top 10 state when it comes to fining, prosecuting, and imprisoning those who harbor or hire illegal aliens in our great state? I think that's a very important question we should be asking, and that is one of the best ways to solve the issue, to remove some of the motivation and justification behind these people wanting to be here to begin with.
It's also a solution that's worth hundreds of millions of dollars.
It is. I mean, the dollar value on that is just astronomical. But the other issue is Second Amendment rights, and particularly constitutional carry. That is the only other thing that I really care about when it comes to our next governor. So I believe we have some footage here of Kevin Stitt talking about just that very issue.
On the scene, on the story, this is News 9.
All right, the candidates for governor here in Oklahoma, they're off to the races, and of course News 9 is following right along.
We sure are. We're looking at their plans and policies for gun ownership. First, our Bonnie Campos in Tulsa with more on Republican candidate Kevin Stitt.
Kevin Stitt founded Gateway Mortgage back in 2000. It's been his campaign headquarters. He says his private sector expertise will help lead Oklahoma forward. Stitt was even recently endorsed by President Donald Trump in a tweet saying he's strong on crime and borders, the Second Amendment, and loves our military and vets. He has my complete and total endorsement. We asked if Stitt would revisit constitutional carry that was vetoed by Governor Mary Fallin earlier this year. That measure would have allowed adults to carry firearms without a permit or training. Constitutional carry was supported by the National Rifle Association before Fallin shot it down. However, many law enforcement agencies, including the OSBI, opposed the measure.
I would sign it. I'm a constitutional conservative. I support the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, and I think the best defense for a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun.
Kevin Stitt also added that he'd never be in support of raising the
Wow, this is unbelievable. Thank you, Oklahoma, for coming to support what we've started today. And what have we started? We've started change. That's what we all want. And thank you for coming to support my husband, Kevin, and the Vice President of the United States, Mike Pence. We are here today because we want to make a difference in our state. Isn't that right? And I believe that my husband, Kevin Stitt, is the candidate that can help turn our state around and turn it into a top 10 state. I want to thank you all. Many of you have been across the state campaigning for Kevin because you want a new Oklahoma. You want Oklahoma to turn into the top 10 state that we know it can be. And I want to thank you for all the hard work you've done and everything you've done to help get us to this point. But it's not over yet. And we are going to have to work very hard for the next 3 weeks to turn our state around. I want to start today by saying Kevin has left his company and he's chosen to make this sacrifice because he knows from the bottom of his heart that this is the right decision. And it is not just the right decision for him and our family, but it's the right decision for future Oklahomans. Oh. Over the last 20 years that I've known Kevin, I've watched him develop into a wonderful leader. He has learned how to set goals into the future and to rally people around him to move forward to those goals and to make the tough decisions to accomplish them. And that's what we need in our state. That's what we need as the leader of our state. And so I ask you today to help me welcome my husband, the next governor of Oklahoma, Kevin Stitt.
Folks, I just want to say what an honor it is to have Senator Langford, Senator Inhofe, and the other delegates here from our state. I'm so excited to work with them. I can't do this by myself. It's going to take all of us to turn our state around. And just judging by this crowd, we wanted to pack the house for our vice president. You guys have done it today. They've said this is the largest crowd on any of his tours. So let's thank it. Let's thank him. I greeted him at the airport, and I went up on Air Force Two, and it was such an honor to represent you in greeting the Vice President of the United States to Tulsa, Oklahoma. And so I am glad you're on your feet right now, because let's give a big warm welcome to the Vice President of the United States, Mr. Mike Pence.
And we're back after that wonderful footage of Kevin Stitt and our glorious Vice President Mike Pence. We're now joined here in the bunker with the man, the myth, the legend, Tod Tucker himself.
Where am I? Oh, here I am.
All right, you remind me of Admiral Stockdale. Who am I and why am I
here?
Who am I?
Why am I here?
Gridlock!
Let's see if we can move the camera a little bit. There we go.
There we go. Hey, you're an excellent cameraman, Todd.
Well, thank you. I do that in my spare time.
Well, it's good to dabble. Jack of all trades.
I decided to be myself for Halloween. That's what I decided.
Well, you know what? That is a great segue into what we're about to talk about.
Yeah.
These Halloween costumes, and as you can see from the headline here, the outrageous costume rules at Oklahoma colleges. We're talking about OU, the University of Oklahoma, and OCU, Oklahoma City University. You're up on this, aren't you?
Yeah.
There are issues with cultural appropriation, which of course I think is all a big pile of hooey. Hooey's a good word, you think?
I think it's a good word.
Yeah, bullpucky.
Yeah, that's getting closer.
Yeah, so with Halloween fast approaching, the culture police at many Oklahoma colleges are publicly shaming and perhaps punishing students and faculty for their choices of costumes at social events and even in dorm life. They sent out this letter to the university community at OU, email. They had these things printed up and posted all over campus saying, Halloween is just a week away. We hope you have fun and safe celebration, but we want to remind you that Halloween costumes should be designed respectfully, and we admire the creativity, but people's costumes, be aware that cultural appropriation of identities can be offensive. Please select your costumes and depictions in a way that does not demean, dehumanize, or diminish anyone's identity or culture. And then at OCU, they have this flyer with people in such costumes. It says, cultural identities are not for playing dress up. This Halloween, wear a costume, not a culture.
So, we are Oklahoma, land of the red man, but I'm guessing you can't dress as a Native American because that would be highly offensive. Is that what I'm getting out of that?
Apparently, and so they have someone dressed as a samurai here and a geisha, and I guess that's offensive somehow. So what about cowboys? Moto and I were talking about this earlier. He said he used to play cowboys and Indians. So
well, you couldn't say cowboys and Indians now.
That's right. It's pioneers and Native Americans.
Right.
I remember they did that on South Park.
Right. Of course, I'm anti-cowboy because I'm not a Oklahoma State fan.
Right.
But Sooners were cowboys also. And so I guess that you couldn't, I mean, I don't know. At what point does this madness stop? That's my
it doesn't
question.
stop before pronouns for he, she, it, they, these, they, he, it. So we've already gone off the precipice, sir. There's no end in sight.
There's the thing. Could you, for my costume, could I be a non-binary individual? Would that be
that'd be fine.
That'd be fine?
That'd be fine, yeah, because it fits within the liberal narrative. Right. So it's okay for you to do that. Now, if you were to dress as George Washington or Thomas Jefferson, they owned slaves, so therefore, to be a founding father, including the father of our country, that would be wrong. I mean, everybody's going to be offended by something. People choose to be offended. There are certain things that offend me, but I understand that, life doesn't always go my way. I was speaking with a cousin of mine last night, and we were talking about how kids need to learn how to lose. They don't know how to lose anymore. And you can't really be motivated to win unless you felt a loss or two. Yeah. And so, we're at a point now to where college has become a place of indoctrination rather than education. And I've got an article and something that I'm going to speak of on my show that talks about how conservative students are afraid to speak up and challenge their professors because for the fear of getting a bad grade. And so the discussion, one of the great things about college was you were able to have great discussion in classes, and that helped shape your mind and to get a rational discussion going. But now it's offensive And if you offend a professor, I mean, God help us.
Yeah, it's ridiculous the lengths that they're going to change the narrative and indoctrinate our children and our young adults in the schools. Now, with these costumes, like for instance, cowboys.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there were a lot of cowboys historically in Norway.
No.
So if there was someone in this country that was Norwegian, would it be inappropriate for them to dress as a cowboy? Because that would be cultural appropriation.
Now, what if I identify as African American? Can I wear blackface?
Well, Lester Holt of the low-rated MSDN, or not MSDNC, but NBDNC Nightly News, lowest in history, he painted himself white, his face white, put on a wig, and he was, I think her name was Susan Boyle. And so it was okay, but Megyn Kelly put on a blackface. She was fired.
Did she? I don't think she even put on the blackface. She, on her morning show, just said that blackface is not racist. That as long as you were a character and you dressed black,
right,
you were fine.
Well, Lester Holt, who is African American, put on a white face. Therefore, I'm offended, and I'd like to know why he hasn't been disciplined.
Now, Jimmy Kimmel and Jimmy Fallon and Sarah Silverman have all put on blackface. They have all worn it.
That's okay, because they're liberal. So if you're liberal, it's okay. But if you're conservative and you do this, it's like another story we're going to talk about on my show, and that is Hillary Clinton. There was a discussion about something that Cory Booker had said, and she said Eric Holder, and they corrected her, and she said, well, they look alike.
Yeah, the Hillary.
Now, if Donald Trump had said something like this, all hell would have broken loose. It would be nothing but wall-to-wall coverage on CNN, and that's what you would get. The hypocrisy. And we had some fun online last night with people, and I think this would be a lot of fun, too, to discuss Halloween costumes online, because the libturds are starting to feel the desperation that they're losing this election on Tuesday, coming up a week from today. And so they're getting angrier and angrier, and they're spewing more hatred and venom. And so that's what's going on.
And they're purposely ridiculous because the consistent tactic of the left is gaslighting. So they are going to try to say ridiculous, off-the-wall things to try to get you to take a position that
like
they
Donald
are
Trump is an
seeking
anti-Semite.
to put you in.
What if, okay, let's say that I decided that I wanted to be Moses, or I wanted to be...
A good example.
What if I wanted to be Moses, or I wanted to be Father Abraham, or I wanted to be Jesus?
You can't. That's racist against
you
Hebrews.
You definitely can't dress up as the Prophet Muhammad, because that would be a depiction of him, wouldn't it?
That would be a depiction of him.
That'll get you killed.
Yeah.
And and it's the same mentality we're seeing. I mean, not quite to that degree, but that's where I think it will eventually lead to if we don't stand up to such people.
Just like Zim Zet.
Yeah, but does Netflix have the fine motion picture white chicks? How about that?
That's a great point. I never thought about that. I just thought it was a funny movie. You had
exactly.
You know what I thought was funny was that troll that we triggered yesterday, that Dalton full retard Delaney. And his friends, they were so upset because I said that he went full retard, making a reference to the hilarious movie Tropic Thunder, yes. And it was even more epically, divinely ironic to me that the line in the movie is delivered by a white actor that's painted up to play a black guy in a Vietnam War movie.
I thought White Chicks was a hilarious movie.
Awesome. So here's your shout out.
Watched it several
Dalton
times.
Full
and I
Delaney.
challenged Dalton. You're invited to come and if you want to do it on the radio or if you want to do it on video, Dalton Delaney. You are invited to debate me 1 week from today. 1 week from today. Okay, it'll be after the election. By the way, views and opinions expressed here are not necessarily the views of OTU, its board, or its partners. But Dalton, you are invited to come and debate me 1 week from today. Okay?
I certainly hope he takes you up on that.
And meet me at 3 o'clock right here at the bunker.
That'll be thrilling. I hope he takes you up on that.
Bet he won't.
I probably not, but I would love to see it anyway.
But you're invited, Dalton. We want to hear your point of view.
I think that's a great, strong ending for this broadcast.
All right, guys. Hey, make sure you visit us on Patreon, www.patreon.com/OTU Media. You can also find us on YouTube at Oklahoma Taxpayers Unite and on Facebook at OK Taxpayers Unite.
See you, Dalton.